What happened here? What happened?
The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
I'm CJ.
And I'm Carlos.
Ah, there we go.
I learned from last Friday.
All right.
And after an ear test that we had on the studio,
That's right.
so loud, we all set to go.
Carlos and I have lost our high-end hearing loss because the speakers are so loud in here on an intro that, you know, both are. I'm surprised we're not bleeding from the eardrums. Okay, so you've got some video you want to run?
Well, yeah, we had an interesting week, to say the least. Yesterday, out in Somerset, they signed a community compact with the state. And people are saying, well, what the heck's a community compact? Well, a community compact is where a community, such as Somerset, and so far there's been 7, Worcester being one of them, which is a gateway city, enter into an agreement with the state to, get this now, because you know we're never going to see it in Fall River, they enter into an agreement with the state to enter into best practices, recognize best practices. And Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito was here, and she spoke on this issue very clearly with a lot of the people. And let's bring some of her statements to the people watching today.
We're asking communities across the state to achieve better and best practices to be able to best serve your community. And we feel by raising that bar, raising those standards, that through better government we can build stronger communities across our Commonwealth. So we put together a program and a menu of options for best practices for you to consider. And I'm very pleased that you want to be able to look at your budget and demonstrate to the taxpayers here in Somerset that you are budgeting efficiently, stretching those dollars, and delivering quality services, and then be able to have data to prove to the taxpayers and the businesses that you want to attract here that you have a well-run management team here.
Now we know that's never going to happen.
Yeah, would you mind rerunning that, please? Because, you know, it's something that'll never happen in Fall River because, you know, if we demonstrated what we would demonstrate to the taxpayers if anybody looked at our budget was the exact opposite of that. But will you run it to show the people of Fall River that there are actually people and communities out there that want their tax dollars spent wisely and want to ensure that they are? Please run that again.
We're asking communities across the state to achieve better and best practices to be able to best serve your community. And we feel by raising that bar, raising those standards, that through better government we can build stronger communities across our Commonwealth. So we put together a program and a menu of options for best practices for you to consider. And I'm very pleased that you want to be able to look at your budget and demonstrate to the taxpayers here in Somerset that you are budgeting efficiently, stretching those dollars, and delivering quality services, and then be able to have data to prove to the taxpayers and the businesses that you want to attract here that you have a well-run management team here.
Can she run for mayor for River?
Good point, but was that wasn't really the lieutenant governor, was it? That was an actress playing a part, because that can't be real. Talking about stretching your tax dollar and using them efficiently. Come on, is that like Saturday Night Live? Is that a skit from Saturday Night Live? I mean, you know, Fall River. Come on. You know, Fall River's definitely not on board with that. We haven't even heard about this in Fall River because, heaven forbid, our council, you know, they don't want to look at the budget because I have the letter here from about Mr. Noon's, putting $146,000 in the wrong account. If we ever looked at our budget, they'd take the city council, the mayor, and half our financial team and put them all in jail for malfeasance, nonfeasance, misfeasance, and every other kind of feasance we can come up with, and we know that. So, people, listen to this, look at this, pay attention, because this is why it's so important in September and then again in November to clean house. Don't take a broom, take a bulldozer.
Chip, and the really interesting part about this is, by signing this compact, there are perks. I'll bring the Lieutenant Governor on to tell us about that now.
A benefit of signing this compact, you get what we call bonus points. So you place Somerset in a more competitive position when it comes time for the state to consider Somerset for, say, a MassWorks grant, which is infrastructure funding for an economic development project that you might need, or a housing project that you might like to see, or a parks grant, or any statewide grant that you feel can help Somerset, build, develop, expand. It will place you in a more competitive position to achieve those funds.
Now you see, you even get a perk for entering into this.
Yeah, but CJ, that flies in the face of the way we do business in Fall River. You see, that is a performance-based incentive. We don't look for performance-based incentives in Fall River. What we do is we look for lack of performance-based begging. That's what we do, because look at our financial team that can't put money in the right account, and they want pay raises because they should get paid what they pay in Boston. Now, performance-based is a word that is, it's almost an expletive in the city of Fall River, because it's just the opposite. What we do is we tell our state reps, go up and beg, tell them how screwed up we are. We suck. We can't handle money. We blow it all. Give us more to blow, please, because we're killing the taxpayers. We're going to raise their taxes and their fees, but we not only want all their money, we want as much money as we can get from the state and the feds, because we are a giant vacuum cleaner, and inefficient, ineffective, incompetent bunch of nitwits that all need to go in November. And that's the problem. And that's where we begin the revolution. Get rid of these clowns.
But Chip, here's the thing. And this, I confirmed this. I went online. I looked at it all. If Somerset and Fall River apply for the same MassWorks grant, for roads or whatever it may be, guess who gets it? Somerset. Even though we need it, Somerset will get it because they're entered this performance-based program.
I see this as a pre-qualification, which is a lot of work done, and inside of a folder. If that person comes, it happens on our day lives. If you cannot go look for a home before you are pre-qualified with a bank, and the bank's going to tell you, you are able to spend so much money to buy a home. So when you call a real estate, I'm looking for a house. The first question they're going to ask you is, are you qualified? How much you qualified for? Because they don't want to lose their time. So here's a perfect example. This is, they are pre-qualifying the person, the candidates. So now if Somerset apply for a grant, that Fall River applies for a grant, and Fall River, it's not through that pre-qualification process, automatically Somerset's going to get.
But
that's the way I see it.
Here's another component that I definitely want to bring up, because people are saying, well, that's not for Fall River, and it even came up at the press conference. That's not for Fall River. That's not for gateway cities. This program was created to meet the needs of the communities outside of the gateway cities, because the gateway cities already have a program that, oddly enough, they're not taking advantage of. But listen to this last bit of last soundbite from Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito.
Well, our expectation is that all of the communities, 351, sign a compact, because we want every community to be able to achieve best and better practices to deliver quality services to their residents in their hometown areas. And so this compact program is available to every city, every town, no matter their size. So everyone is eligible for it. So there is no barrier to entry. And we are seeking everyone's input. We've offered some best practice ideas for them to consider. It can also
She lies. We're not eligible because I'm going to tell you right now, our counsel will say she's a liar. That's it. We're not eligible. We can't do that because, number one, if we did that, we wouldn't have a government left. They'd all be in jail, and then we'd have to have, I mean, we're laughing to keep from crying because this community is in such dire straits that, and it's just, you look at it and you say, well, I don't know. It's time maybe to run your head into a wall, and because the fact is that, look, here it is, the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Massachusetts talking about accountability, talking about performance, talking about maximizing the use of the taxpayers' dollars for the good of the taxpayer. And what do we hear in Fall River? We hear, we're moving forward. Forward to what? I mean, I don't know what Fall River they're living in, but we're not living, I don't see Fall River moving forward. We continue to be selected as the worst or the second worst city in virtually every bad category, and in every good category, we're in the basement. I don't know what they think they've been doing the last 20 years, but I can tell you what I see them doing, dismantling the very fabric that this city was built on. Destroying this city. They've changed this city, and not for the good. The working class, for the majority, has moved out. We don't have people, everybody who could afford to, basically, 90% of them moved out of this community. We continue to import people who don't contribute to the economy. We look at the number of people and the incomes. We bring in people who don't contribute to the workforce. And the city is gradually disintegrating before our eyes. Not gradually anymore. It's to the point where basically we've got a foundation of sand, not cement. And it's a sad commentary on what we've allowed, and I say that, what we have allowed to happen because we continue to elect this type of person. And it's time to begin a change. And that change is, very simply, only employ people in your government who work in your interests. And if they don't, get rid of them. We impose term limits. If you don't do the job, you're going to be the mayor for one term. If you don't do the job, you're going to be a city councilor for one term. And then you can go stand on a corner with a paper cup and beg for money somewhere else. But the days of Fall River standing on the corner with a cup in its hand begging the state and then complaining because they think we're a bunch of losers down here should be gone. And the way they're going to be gone is by getting rid of these people. And you can't, don't give me the excuse. It's your fault. Because, everybody says, well, if it doesn't affect me, well, ultimately it'll affect everybody. And now I'm going to read one of my favorite quotes. And you can read this quote at the Holocaust pavilion up outside of Faneuil Hall. Because when you tell people that, look, I'm not going to vote, I don't like the candidate, well, guess what? I don't care. You got to pick the lesser of two evils and get them out in the next election if they don't do the job. If politicians begin to realize that they're not going to be here if they don't work for us, well, maybe they'll start doing their job. Because somebody ultimately will get in and it'll do the job. Because if you continue to think that, hey, I'm not going to participate because both of them stink, I'm sorry. There are certain things you got to pick a side on. And when it comes to government, you have to pick a side. Otherwise, very bad things will happen. Because as Sir Edmund Burke said in England a long time ago in the 1700s, when good men do nothing, evil will prevail. But this is the quote from a survivor of the Holocaust. First, they came for the communists, and I didn't speak because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I didn't speak because I wasn't a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. And that's what's happening in Fall River. And this man, Mr. Nehemiah, was a Lutheran minister. So he wasn't a Jew, he wasn't a trade unionist, and he wasn't a communist. He was a Lutheran minister who they ultimately got around to taking to the concentration camps. So they're taking the voters and the taxpayers to our own form of a slow death by dismantling our city. And for those people who call themselves trade unionists and continue to advocate breaking the city financially, I will be the first one standing there screaming in your face when the receiver comes in and cuts your pays in half and you're all whining like little children about how badly your pay got cut, that you caused this. You didn't see the forest for the tree. We do need to share the sacrifice, all of us. Not just certain people. And it's time to begin to not only share the sacrifice, but share the burden of responsibility to create a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And we do that by picking a side. The reality is we can't have no mayor. As much as we'd like it, well, maybe we can change the charter and get a city manager and make the mayor a ceremonial position, and they can be like the Queen of England and run around and cut ribbons. That's what Sam wants to do, because he wants a staff big enough to the fact that all he has to do is play tennis and do whatever he does when he's not in City Hall, which is most of the time. But the fact is, the change begins here. The change begins with us. The change begins in September and is then finalized in November. So for you people who don't want to pick a side, for you people who can sit and say, I don't like either candidate, well, I've had many an election that I had to choose between bubonic plague and cholera. And I had to choose, but I chose one. Because the fact is, not leaving something blank is like not voting at all. You pick the lesser of two evils and then try to get somebody better to run in the next election. That's what the political process is about. It's about culling the herd, getting rid of the dead wood. And we've got some dead wood that is now fossilized in the city council because they've been there so long. So that's my little political commentary for today, because I'm tired of listening to all the excuses as to why this city got to where it is. And the reality is, we are culpable. I voted in virtually there have been some primary elections where partisan. I don't normally vote in partisan elections because I'm an independent. Once in a while, I'll vote in a partisan election on either side because there's a particular candidate I want to see get in. But you can't find a final election I didn't vote in since I got out of the military. And the fact is that, you got to participate. You got to get in the batter's box. If we're going to hit a home run, we got to take a couple of swings. And the first swings are going to come in this election. So get out there, call 5 of your friends, have them call 5 of their friends, and make sure that when these polls open this year, we supersede what we did in the recall.
Chip, it's very clear, okay, that a lot of the people are, very fed up with this entire situation. But you spoke about the fact that you got to get out and vote for somebody. And, I'm not going to say what meeting I was at. I'm not going to say who said it. But somebody turned around and says, I'm not going to say anything about any of this because I've given up enough for the high road. And the high road's gotten them nowhere. And you know what? That's what's happened here in Fall River. The apathy has gotten so strong and so powerful that the people don't realize that they are the cause. They're the cause of the problem because they do nothing.
Yeah, well, that's not the high road, that's the no road. You know, that's bull. That's absolute bull. You can't tell me because we got crappy politicians. Now, you can say to me, well, I didn't vote for half of those idiots.
Right.
And okay, that's a plausible say, I tried. But that doesn't mean you stop trying. The reality is, if you basically commit suicide, political suicide, by not participating. You know, it's just like life. You give up, you either live it and you take the bad with the good and you persevere and you always get up one more time than you knock down. And life is a grindstone. And it's your choice whether that grindstone grinds you into dust or polishes you. So you suck it up and you keep fighting. And you may not win in the first round. We may not win in our lifetime. But we have to change. We have to change this city. Otherwise, we're not going to have a city. We're not going to have anything left. And the thing is that bull about, I'm taking the high road or neither candidate. I don't like either. Well, tough luck. Pick one. I mean, pick the one you think is better. I mean, we had 70% of the people in this city that picked Mayor Flanagan for a third term. And look what he did. And then everybody flipped. 70% of the people wanted him out. Well, now we got this guy in who made 1 million promises and hasn't done what he said. So the thing is, pick a side. You happy with this guy's doing? Vote for him. If you're not happy, vote against him. But vote. If you don't vote, you don't deserve the time of day. Don't complain. Shut up and take the crap that they're shoving down your throat because you're the one who opened your mouth.
And this is a perfect opportunity to do it because I believe we have 4 candidates on the ballot in September. 4 or 5, right? 4 or 5 candidates.
Well, we'll know on Tuesday how many.
4.5. I don't know.
4.5. But the thing is, we have choices there. If you really don't like the way this mayor is going, you have another 3 or 4 choices.
That's right.
But prove a point. Taking him out of office. Yeah. It's the first thing that if you don't agree with what he's doing, you have more candidates that you want to give them, you want to hear what they have to say for our city. Take this opportunity that you have more choices, okay, and take them out in September. It was done before. The community came together, did it before. Can be done again. Now, if he goes into November, now the city's divided again. And I don't want to hear the complaint that he's not doing, that he's not coming here, that he's not doing this and that. Then don't complain. If this mayor goes on the ballot in November, don't complain again.
And you're right. You're right. Look, we have choices. And I'm not going to say, look, I don't tell people how to vote. I get in, I vote for who I want. I didn't pick a candidate in the recall election because I made a commitment that we wanted to get rid of this mayor, and I would allow everybody to make an individual choice based on these people's platforms. I wasn't going to endorse anybody. So the fact is that, again, we have a situation. So, if you think that Sam Sutter has lived up to his promises, that we have a transparent government, that he was going to work to change the way we do business in Fall River, that he has been a good mayor, then vote for him. But if you believe, as I do, that the government is anything but transparent, that he hasn't lived up to one of the promises he's made, that he's created more bureaucracy and more fat in a government while imposing more fees and more taxes without any attempt to tighten the belt and provide, as our Lieutenant Governor said, using the money for the best use for the taxpayer. I don't believe he has done that. and it's nothing personal. Just as it was nothing personal with Will Flanagan. It's nothing personal.
Right.
The fact is that, you know, if I didn't have a bad shoulder, I'd play tennis with Sam, you know, but the fact is that that's not the issue. You know, I will go on record publicly. I think he's a crappy mayor, okay? And I'm not going to vote for him. But I have choices. As Carlos said, we have choices. And it's up to the individual voter. If you're not happy with Sam Sutter, you look at the other candidates, and you look at the candidates' platforms, and you look at what they said, and you remember, just as Sam Sutter made promises that, in my opinion, he didn't keep, all politicians make promises, as Flanagan did, and they all do. Now, the only thing we have to judge a man on is his word. When they run for office, they're going to tell you what they're going to do. The key is that it's what you do after. When you elect somebody and they don't do what they promised, you get rid of them. You get rid of them. You get rid of them in the next election. And the reality is, that's it. And in extreme cases, you have a recall. But, you know, there's no reason to recall the next mayor. Absolutely not. And because whoever gets in, it's going to take them the better part of a year to begin any kind of process. And by that time, it's too late to have a recall because there'll be an election within a year anyway. So the reality is, look, let's just make this Fall River. Let's make a new Fall River where there's a simple rule. Do what you promise. Work in the best interest of the taxpayer. Otherwise, you're taking the express train out of office.
You got my vote.
Yeah, that's it. Chip Camara for mayor. But you know, the meeting with, you know, full disclosure, by the way, our news program received a phone call from the governor's office requesting our presence at this news conference and signing of the compact. So we were there. And we get a lot of those invites. We were invited to be with the lieutenant governor today at the Madeira Feast in New Bedford. But I spoke with her off camera about a couple of the issues here in Fall River. And she says, well, you really should address this to Mayor Sutter. And I said very clearly to her that the mayor is not willing to listen to the voters of Fall River, to the citizens, to the people. They always got to go through multiple levels of, you know, people to get the message to him. And she goes, well, that happens a lot. That happens in the governor's office, the lieutenant governor's office. I said, but the message never gets to him. Because the underlings, like happens in your office sometimes, don't feel the need to present the information to you. And so you have to do the end runaround. And on the issues that I brought up, she said, well, I know about the projects, I know about those deals. She goes, and yes, there are some questions in it, but Mayor Sutter hasn't returned any phone calls to answer any questions.
Yeah, well, your initial answer should have been, you got to find them first.
But you know, this program that they're offering to all the cities and towns also provides funding for the teams to come in and put these best practices together for them. They will pay for the funding to do that. But again, like you said, Chip, Fall River won't do it because all of a sudden they're going to be held accountable.
Yeah, and they'll all be out of office, because let's face it, when somebody checks on how we've run this city for the last 20 years, it's going to do what the last report we read and all these reports say. This city is replete with mismanagement. The reality is that what's going to happen is if somebody really examines the way we do business, it will be an indictment on their performance and they will lose their seats. That's the reason they don't want to sign on, because if somebody comes in and investigates what we've done, they're going to say we've been doing it wrong for a very long time, and they're going to lose those seats that they feel like they're glued into. And that's why we need to do it ourselves.
I agree.
Let's put some new blood in there.
Hey, thanks for watching. We'll see you all on Monday. Have a great weekend.
And I see you on Friday.
Don't forget the tennis clinic tomorrow.
That's right.